Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Into the Night tonight. We talk about indie filmmaking here. My name is Paul A. Brooks. I'm the founder of Into the Night Motion Pictures, and I only have a free Zoom. So these conversations can never go more than 35, 40 minutes tops. I am super excited to be chatting again with my buddy, Roger Connors. Roger, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a hot minute since we've chatted like this.
It has. It's nice to catch up. You're sort of in recovery mode right now. Everything seems to be going okay.
Yeah, I had a back surgery that it's been like 3 years in the making. You and I were actually supposed to appear on another podcast together, just like as a perfect pairing. But unfortunately, because of my schedule, my surgery schedule, I
Yeah.
had to step off that. So I'm happy that we're able to connect here, and I'm sure there will be other opportunities in the near future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot to talk about. I thought maybe we'd start with Meet the Movie, since that is obviously what you're promoting right now. It's kind of doing the festival circuit and everything right now. For the uninitiated, can you just tell us a little bit about what Meet is about?
Yeah, absolutely. Meet the Movie is it's a queer slasher. It's a true-blooded slasher at its core, but it explores diverse queer characters and themes and just what's going on in their lives. Really puts that at the forefront, while also ensuring that you get the blood and the gore and the body count that you'd expect as a slasher fan in general, no matter how you identify. So I wanted to make sure that we come out swinging. So no matter what draws you to Meet, whether it be the queer angle or the horror and the gore, you're going to get what you came for, I like to think.
A little something for everyone.
Absolutely. We're here to
Nice.
serve.
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. It's still doing the festival thing and everything. I did back it on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, whatever you were doing with it.
Yeah.
And I know that you had a premiere for it a little while back.
Mhm.
What has this response been like so far? How are you feeling about everything?
Yeah, we had a local screening back in October. That was kind of our first time getting a response from people. And I do want to say quickly, thank you for backing and supporting.
Of
You've been a
course.
long time supporter, and I'm just getting our posters printed this next week. So it's really cool to start seeing that merch and those Indiegogo, those like material items come to fruition.
Yeah.
But you've been along for the journey, and you've seen it all the way through that screening, and now what is our film festival circuit? And honestly, the response was the best outcome I could hope for. It's a long film. It runs a bit long in the tooth, but I'm confident in what we're doing with it. And I was kind of nervous and kind of hesitant, awaiting to see a public response. And for our first screening, which is really still getting a lot of the kinks out, there's still a lot of things that we were learning about the movie and things we were exploring and things that we wanted to fix, but we weren't sure how. That screening was such a vital tool for us, and it really kind of helped push us to that next phase, that final push here now that we enter the film festival run. And so we are in the second leg of the film festival run now. And the film has really evolved and flourished. And I'm so very proud of it. And it just seems like people are responding really well to all aspects. Again, the queer angle, but also the horror aspect. And that was really my goal, was a film that would really satisfy across the board. It seems to be the case, but I'm crossing my fingers because we're still early in that journey. We still have a lot of horror fans to sit down and watch this movie and get their opinions on it. So I'm hoping that it continues to resonate with them.
Right. I know that this is something that you have been working on for a while now. What was the genesis of the idea for the project? How did after having done Rebirth, which we'll certainly get into in a little bit here, because you know me, I'm a zombie nut. Um, did you decide that you wanted to do something completely different? Were you always kind of wanting to do a slasher movie at some point in your career?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning Rebirth, because that was really like a personal project for me. It was, my first time getting out there and getting my hands dirty. I had AD'd on multiple projects, but that was a really small project that also took quite a long period of time to get that completed. But it really kind of taught me what to do and what not to do, and I learned a lot of lessons on that set, and I learned a lot about how people respond to certain things. And my goal as a queer filmmaker has always been to inject some of my personal life experience into the material I create, because I think we often write to what we know. And so Rebirth was really just more of a creative experiment that ended up getting done and seeing the light of day. And that was really awesome. Whereas with me was really my first time, I would say, as a filmmaker, creating something that is completely original and my own. Rebirth was clearly inspired by Night of the Living Dead. I see your background. And so obviously with good reason. But I went into that as a huge George Romero fan, knowing that he had a knack for social commentary. And I wanted to give my own take on the social commentary aspect of what makes Night of the Living Dead stand apart from many other genre films. And so with Meat, I wanted to maintain that element of social commentary as a gay man, as a queer individual, and what I'm seeing right now in today's world, both within the community and from a bystander perspective as well. And I wanted to take that and yeah, inject that into the slasher mold, but I wanted to do something that was completely fully original, and so I took a lot of inspiration from some of my favorite films. I'm a diehard slasher fan, but Meat really just came to me through a series of my life experiences. The film went through many drafts. My first draft of Meat was back in 2016, and it was really exploring like the journey of being a gay man living with HIV. And then there was all these different aspects that I shifted and adjusted to kind of fit the current cultural beats that were hitting in the moment. And I think the final draft of Meat just hit at the right time. If anything, I feel like we're like 3 steps ahead, considering everything that's happening right now, socially, and what's going on and how the queer community across the board is being affected. I really think that Meat proved to be a very timely script. And so I'm happy I approached it the way I did, because I think it really resonates right now in 2026.
Mm. Well, I'm super excited to check it out, and I think that some people might not realize as an independent filmmaker just how much goes into making a movie. I'm always frustrated that things aren't moving as fast as I want them to, but it takes a while to get everything finished and get it out there. There's just a
Yeah.
lot to it.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And me, while I did have a successful crowdfunding campaign, and again, thank you for being part of that, and thank you to the many people who were. My first two crowdfunding campaigns, first two of three, were not successful. I mean, they raised money, but I didn't come close to hitting my goal. But luckily, I worked in marketing for years, and I really came to learn how to navigate a platform like an Indiegogo. And so by the time we did launch our third Indiegogo campaign, we had filmed a good chunk of the film. We had a lot to show. And I think I was so confident in what we had crafted by that point that it just was a matter of getting it in front of people and getting people excited. And I think once people started to see what we had cooking, dare I say, and specifically the stud, I know the stud really started to hit with fans of the genre. I think that was the stepping stone we needed to get onto the path of success. And that final push, that final campaign proved to be very successful. We doubled our goal. And thanks to that, we finished the film. And it did take a long time. But in some ways, I'm grateful it did, because it really taught me a lot. It taught me how to handle my finances, how to properly fund a film. We certainly went over budget, but the film looks the way I want it to look. And it unfolds the way I want it to unfold. As a creative, that extra time was a blessing for me. And so right now, while it did take a bit longer than I would have hoped, and while I know a lot of supporters have been eagerly waiting, this film, I really like to think it's going to pay off. I think they're going to see the hard work and the money. They're going to see how it was spent, because I do like to think the film looks the budget and then some. And I will make sure to get you a screener here when we're done with the conversation, because I do have one available for you to view. So I'll make sure you get to see it.
I appreciate that.
Of
And
course.
my next question was going to be about the stud, because that's sort of central to the marketing campaign, it seems. Well, how did you sort of conceptualize what the stud was going to look like, and how did the design of the character come about?
Yeah, so I knew that with a film like Meat, which is at its core, just a one individual slasher figure, that is the focus of what's going on and everything unfolds around them. That slasher, much like a Freddy or a Jason or any other of the, you name them, you pick them, one of the classic slashers that have defined the genre, they always have a very specific aesthetic. They have something that sets them apart. Freddy has his striped sweater and his razor blades, and Jason has the hockey mask. Even though it came in not until the third entry, it has become so defining of who he is. And so I knew that something about the stud had to make him stand apart. But I knew, like, unlike a lot of the classic baddies, the classic slasher mold, I didn't want like a big hulking physique. I wanted something lean and stealthy and sexy, but I didn't want to like camp it up sexually. Like, I wanted it to be sexy because of the fetish element. This is a gay slasher. I wanted to bring that into the aesthetic, but I also wanted him to be someone that, sexy or not, when you look at him, they are intimidating. And the stud is scary because he is a moving weapon. He's covered in spikes. He's fast. He's not a lumbering oaf. He is a quick moving, stealthy, slippery, oily, vinyl and leather, and just covered in these daggers all over him that make him, just like I said, like a moving weapon. And so I knew that I really wanted to incorporate that sexual element, but I didn't want to be what was like all consuming. I don't know if you've ever seen the slasher Hellbent, which is one of my like favorites. I grew up on it. It's the
Mm,
first gay slasher I know of. It's from the early 2000s, and the killer aesthetic is great, but they really lean into the sex. And I was like, okay, that's been done. I don't want to make this strictly about the sex. He has to be scary first, and just undertones of sexuality. And so yeah, I really like research a lot of like the 80s and 90s, like punk and underground, like Euro gay club scenes. I really wanted to kind of create something that would have really vibed in like the underbelly, like the nighttime underground bars of like the Euro gay nightclubs of like the late 90s, and the more taboo elements of that. Parts of his wardrobe consist of like fisting gloves and harnesses and chains. And I just wanted to inject that into this aesthetic because I think to a lot of viewers who are not queer, who don't see that more regularly, I think there's a very taboo and, like I said, intimidating aspect to that not just because he's scary, but it's intimidating because it's approaching, it's dabbling in ideas that are not mainstream, that
mhm.
sexual liberation that maybe the average everyday person doesn't see on the regular. And so I think that adds an extra element of, like I said, taboo and discomfort for them. And I wanted to tap into that.
Interesting. Um, Going back to Rebirth for a second, I was planning on asking you this, so it seems like a good time to do it. I remember there's a shot in the film, um, how to put this, where you see a whole lot of a guy's butt. And I wonder if that's sort of the same mentality that you're talking about here, just really going for it and introducing stuff from gay culture that you might not normally see in another zombie film.
Yeah, I've always, I think, both celebrated and struggled with how females are treated within the horror genre. Celebrated in that it's such a main staple to have a beautiful, busty woman whipping her jugs out. Excuse my language. But
Right.
we talk all the time on Dark Knight, the podcast, because we're two gay hosts and we love the classic slashers. But it's such a main staple, but it's also so like at times uncomfortable. Like I think of a movie like uh, Prom Night 2, Hello Mary Lou, where you have this full frontal shower sequence where the lead female character and her best friend are fully naked, prancing around this locker room. And like, it's funny and it's dated, but it's also uncomfortable because these individuals are very exposed. And then it's also uncomfortable because, like, you know, it's always the females that are in these positions. So like there's something to be said about the women who view these movies and feeling subjected to having to see this all the time. For us as guys, we can chuckle it off, but I think for women, there's a whole other level of vulnerability that men just don't feel. And so I tapped into that with Rebirth. I really wanted to see if that would shock people. It certainly did. If there's one thing that my Rebirth film is known for, it's that butthole shot, and I'll take it. But Meat, I mean, Meat is entitled Meat for a reason. And it's because the men in this film are treated as such, both in how they're sliced and diced, but also how they're exploited. I mean, the men in this film get the big long naked chase scenes, tons of male full frontal nudity. Sorry, straight boys, but there are no females that are exposed in this film. The women in Meat are really the ones with the good heads on their shoulders, and they're these strong, empowering female characters, and the guys are the ones that are kind of flighty and prancing around and making bad choices and taking their clothes off and getting killed while they're doing it. And so that was really my intention, and that was something I barely touched on with Rebirth, but I really explored a whole lot more with Meat. That's really one of the main focuses of what we do with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as a straight guy, there's plenty of straight guys who are bothered by this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I've never really understood it. I mean, I've had male nudity in some of my films before, and it's whatever, like it's there I think that there does need to be more of a balance there in general. And so I always appreciate it when I see somebody trying to do the opposite of what you're used to. And with with a slasher movie that has gay characters and whatnot, that just sort of makes more sense to me.
Absolutely. And, I think it's something that's really starting to become more mainstream. I mean, you're seeing a lot of actors take that plunge now and kind of ring the bell while they do it. Like, hear ye, I'm doing full frontal, because now it's kind of one of those power moves in a way. And you even look at shows, they haven't shown full frontal yet, but I'm sure they're working towards it. But like Heated Rivalry, which is really oftentimes exploiting these beautiful men in these very sexual situations, and it's blowing up. People love it. People, straight people, gay people, women, men, I don't care. People love it. And I think it is something, because of how confined and restricted people are feeling right now with the current political climate. I think people are hungrier for this more so now than ever, because it does feel kind of taboo. It feels like we're not supposed to. So we are going to watch this slutty gay movie because it's letting us explore things that we're being told we shouldn't. So why? Just like drugs, just like anything else, the more you restrict drugs in any given place, the more people are going to want them. That's why meth addiction exists in rural America, not to get into these crazy side topics, but I think, the more they try to silence and restrict gay voices and queer material, the more the masses are kind of like, but I kind of want to see more,
Hmm.
because it is kind of taboo. So I'm embracing that aspect of this journey. That's why I say I think Meat's hitting at just the right time, because it is taboo. It should feel that way. And I also want to make sure that people aren't shocked by the amount of gore while they watch it.
Yeah, no, makes sense to me. We have a segment that we do on this show called Indie Inspo, and we're going to do that right now. Yeah, basically, like if you have a filmmaker, a film in particular that comes to mind as like the number one thing that has inspired you, or really anything that you want to talk about, we just love to talk about some of the different inspirations.
Yeah, I'll say, and I've shouted these filmmakers out a couple of times, but they were so vital in my journey. With me, and really just saying, what, I'm gonna fucking do it. But excuse my language. I'm gonna jump off the edge of the cliff, and I'm gonna dive and hope that I stick the landing. And it was the Monster Makeup team based out of Rhode Island. They did a film that was released a couple years ago called Death Drop Gorgeous. That a little indie slasher that could, made on a smaller budget than Meat, and they got it out there to the masses. They got it on Shudder. It got quite a lot of attention, and I think that they were kind of ahead of the curve, because all of a sudden after that, you saw all these other queer filmmakers kind of standing up in unison saying, "Hey, we want our voices to be heard within the genre as well." So that film has kind of been like the torch that lights my way through this journey. They just did a film called Saint Drogo. I just got my Indiegogo perks from that campaign.
Nice.
But Saint Drogo was their sophomore effort, and boy, oh boy, did it blow me away. Completely different tone from Death Drop Gorgeous, but also very, very queer. If possible, I recommend that you and listeners check out both, because it's amazing the growth that has taken place for this specific team and just how far they have taken their craft. But one other film I really want to shout out is I recently saw this at a film festival in Houston. But since we're talking about male nudity, when you don't expect it, and straight filmmakers taking that plunge, I saw Butcher's Bluff by William Instone. He's based out of Texas. I saw it in Houston. I can't recall if he's Houston based, but it's a classic backwoods slasher. Hits all the beats, everything you're hoping for, with a great killer to boot. Huge moment of male nudity out of nowhere. And I was like, whoa, man, last thing I would have expected from this film. And he's like, well, I'm here to please the masses. That means everybody. And I was like, hey, man, that's like really awesome that you kind of you took the plunge. You added that to your film because you know that just as much as you want to exploit the ladies and show off how pretty they can be, you want to show some of the man meat too. And I think that's a ballsy move, dare I say. So yeah, I really enjoyed that film. I thought that was really cool that they opted to include that in their film. It was really just an enjoyable movie as well.
Cool. Three great recommendations. I haven't seen any of them, so I'll definitely check out the one that you mentioned that's on Shudder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always interested in checking out Shudder originals, because it's like it can be kind of hit or miss, like sometimes I see stuff on there that I really love and sometimes
Yeah.
not so much, but it's always interesting to check out independent stuff like that.
For sure. Oh yeah, Shutter's been great about that. I mean, I think that's a lot of filmmakers' dream goal right now is to get on Shutter. But there's a lot of other wonderful platforms coming up as well. I do know that The Butcher's Bluff just got its release. I know it's on Tubi. I believe it's on Amazon. But all the standards as well. So I do know that film is now available to be viewed by the masses. So I definitely
Mhm.
recommend that.
Cool. You had mentioned sophomore effort, and it got me thinking because this is something that I always like to talk with filmmakers about, is something that you really took away from your first film, something that you learned that you knew for sure that you wanted to do a little bit different for your second film. Is there anything that stands out from Rebirth that you carried over into Meat to make sure that you did a little bit differently?
The power of pre-production, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, like I think a lot of green filmmakers, they get the camera, they get the cast, they have the script, and they're like, let's just do it. And I can't tell you how many sets I've been on, Rebirth or otherwise, where you get on set and you're kind of like, what are we doing again today? And I definitely am a filmmaker that utilizes Studio Binder and sets everything up as in advance as possible at this point, so that way I know exactly what to expect. It's definitely a matter of communication and making sure everyone's on the same page. I know that Rebirth definitely refined my communication skills, and yeah, just my ability to prepare and plan in advance. Because the one nice thing about Meat is it took a long time, but I got everything I wanted. I got all the locations I wanted, and we had the time to do it. And it's because we knew exactly what we were doing, and we went in with everything planned well in advance, which I can't say about previous films I had worked on. And that was the one thing that really set Meat apart. The experience was long, but it was smooth and it was enjoyable and it was positive. There were late nights, but they were really well utilized. And yeah, we really didn't have to go back and redo much of anything. Uh,
Wow.
so that really made it an enjoyable experience because there was a lot less stress than I'd experienced on Rebirth.
Well, I totally agree with you. I mean, you get so few opportunities to be on set, to be making a movie and directing a movie, that when you're doing it, obviously you want it to try to make it as enjoyable as possible, not just for yourself, but for the rest of the cast and crew.
Yeah,
And if you do your due diligence with pre-production, you at least have a better chance of everything being a lot smoother. So I'm totally with you on that.
absolutely, absolutely. And I know even more so with my next film, I know that process will be even smoother. I mean, I'm certainly working on a script for a sequel. I think
Hmm.
with slashers, like how can you not? But I will say, like, even though Meat was a huge jump in the right direction following Rebirth, which was a little bit of a mess. I mean, it was my first time directing. There were so many lessons to be learned. I know that my next production will be even tighter and ideally shorter. Like that's the goal. Like let's get it down to 15 days. Now let's get it down to a significantly shorter production period because Meat we filmed over 3 years. There's a distinct time jump in it. There's a
Mm.
5 year time jump that's acknowledged. I suggested to my actors, I was like, change your looks. If you want to get a tattoo or something, go do it now. And they did. So it actually helped. But I knew writing that in, I knew I was saving my ass because I was like, this is going to take a while. And it might as well, it's better just acknowledge that time jump here instead of trying to fight against it and trying to make people look the same. Because I had that issue with Rebirth. We had to go back and redo a lot of stuff. And I did not look the same. And I know that's a fact. So,
Um, you're from Cleveland, correct?
yeah, yeah, Cleveland, Ohio, yeah.
And did you shoot the entire movie in the Cleveland area?
Yeah, I mean, majority in Cleveland, or the cities surrounding it, Lakewood, Ohio. And then we also went out to Hocking Hills, which is southern Ohio. We have a specific mansion sequence, and that was the last thing we filmed because it was the hardest location to get. But I would not bend on it, and so that last sequence was the very last thing we filmed in Hocking Hills, which is about 2 hours away. But other than that, everything was Cleveland area, and very much fits that vibe. Like the goal was to make it feel like Cleveland. I grew up in Cleveland. I grew up in the gay scene, the gay bars of Cleveland, Ohio, which has a very specific Midwest vibe to it. And I wanted to embrace that. I love being from Cleveland, and I wanted this film to feel like that.
Cool. Awesome. Last question for you before we let you go.
Yeah,
We've been talking about your career as a director, but you're an actor as well.
yeah.
And I know that you have been excited about sort of maybe being able to get out a little bit more and do some roles that you weren't able to audition for pre-surgery. Can you talk a little bit about your acting career and sort of like, what you're kind of hoping for trajectory wise as you move forward?
Oh yeah. I mean, not just the surgery, though that definitely was a huge element, but also just meat in general. Like, you know, I'm very much. I've been in a place where I didn't want to be spreading myself too thin. I have a responsibility to finish this film. I'm, using money from Indiegogo campaigns. People are backing this. Like people need to get their perks and see this film, and I mean, I need to follow through on that. So I really stepped more to the sidelines when it came to acting for the last couple of years. I did a few projects. When available, but I just wasn't able to make it a focus. And then my back issue to boot had definitely made it that I was a lot more restricted with what I could do. But I'm an actor first and foremost. It's what I love to do. Several projects that I did work on, like at the very start of Meet, are just now finally starting to get released. So it is nice to have that ride that wave. I have a film, Hollow Lake, that I filmed with my podcast co-host, but also like longtime friend, and I've worked with him on many other films. Tori Escamilla. He did Party Night, Mrs. Claus, Teacher Shortage, which is the set on which I met him. But Hollow Lake is a queer kind of like a home invasion film that I filmed a couple summers ago, and that is doing the film festival run right now. And I'm lucky to have a lot of projects that are just starting to like hit the boiling point, and they'll be released over this year. And so it was kind of a good time to step back, but I'm ready to get back into it because that's where my heart belongs. I love acting more than anything, and I like to think that Meet getting the exposure it's been getting will be a great stepping stone to that. Will open the door for me to hopefully collaborate with a lot more filmmakers in the very near future, because that is my overall main goal. I would love to work on a few films this year. I think that would really make this all the more worth it.
It seems like it can be feast or famine sometimes. You're waiting and waiting for something to come out, and then all of a
Yeah,
sudden there's like a burst of things that kind of happen at once. I don't know
yeah.
why it happens like that, but sometimes that's just kind of how it turns out.
Absolutely, and luckily with the famine, in a way, the last couple of years, I was able to dictate when that took place, which benefited me. But hey, you know what? Back in the game, so maybe you and I will have a chance to work together in the near future. Who
I would
knows?
love to. I mean, we've never met in person, so we keep
Right?
saying we got to run into each other one of these days.
Yeah. Are you in Pennsylvania? Where are
No,
you?
I'm in central Illinois.
Illinois. Okay, got it. I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe seeing the Night of the Living Dead background, my mind went to Evans City, but got it. Okay, got it. Yeah, no, I mean, hey, the one nice thing about having a film to actually promote at this point, film festivals, I've met so many filmmakers who I've only known on a digital platform up to this point. This last few months has been wonderful because we've already done, I think, 5 festivals, and I've met a lot of people whom I hadn't met for years, but had been forming relationships with and getting to know and watching their projects grow and supporting them. And so it's been a wonderful aspect of the film festival process is meeting a lot of these social media personalities who I become friends with.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best parts of festivals and networking and all that stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Like-minded people and everything,
absolutely. I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. Speaking of promotion, do you want to mention the podcast? Anything else that you would like to
Yeah.
plug?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned earlier, I co-host Dark Night of the podcast with Troy Escamilla, who is a fellow queer filmmaker. And we've been doing it since 2020. I don't know how it's still going, but
It's a lot of work.
some way, yeah. So we did take a brief break leading up to my surgery, but we're going to jump back into it for our new season, our 2026 season here very soon. So that's really exciting. Please feel free to follow us on social media, Dark Knight of the podcast, but also my personal Instagram, The Scream Queer. That's definitely where I'm the most active. And Meet the Movie also has an Instagram account as well, Meet the Movie, obviously. But there's a couple other Meet the Movies that are like coming out this year. I'm so mad about it. We are Meet the Movie, and it's been that way for years. So I had that title before anybody else. But yeah, no. So those would be the best ways to connect with me and my different projects and different platforms.
Awesome. Well, yeah, definitely give Roger a follow, and stay tuned for updates about Meet. Obviously, I'm looking forward to it hitting some, streaming platforms so we can get it out there a little bit more.
That's my next couple weeks, man. Talking to distribution companies and figuring out our next step. I'm dreading it, but I'm also pumped for it. So, cross your fingers for
Yeah,
us.
that's how it goes. Roger, it's always great to catch up with you, and we will hang out in person soon. We'll figure out a way to make it happen.
Hell yeah, Paul. I can't wait. Thank you so much, as always, for supporting me and Meet and having me on your show. I so very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you for being here. Appreciate everybody watching, and we will see you next time on Into the Night tonight.